All right, excellent. Our goal in this lesson will be to see if the reasons for absence can be used to predict whether an individual will be excessively absent from work. To solve this problem, let's open up a new worksheet in our Tableau document and call it Reasons versus Probability. Okay. Remember that Tableau will always assign a data field either as a dimension or as a measure. And it will do that automatically. Nonetheless, this does not prevent you from changing the type of the fields when necessary. For the sake of exercise, let's change all measures to dimensions. This will also be helpful for our further analysis. Hold the Shift key on your keyboard and select all these fields. Right-click on them and choose Convert to Dimension. Thus, they will join the month value field in the Dimensions section. Done! Let's proceed by dragging the Probability field to the Rows section. As we release the mouse button, a very strange graph will appear below. It definitely isn't the representation we are aiming for. The reason for this is that the probability field has not only been turned into a dimension, but is considered a discrete variable. And that's not what we need here. To indicate that the probability values are being treated as discrete, Tableau displays this data field in blue. So, after we click on this tiny arrow and choose Continuous, we will have corrected this mistake. Next, as we did in the previous video, let's change the type of the graph to shape. This will allow us to see the values as circles. Therefore, we are now ready to add the reasons to our visualization. And how are we going to do that? By selecting all 4 data fields from the Dimensions section while holding the Shift key, and then dragging them to columns. Obviously, the graph doesn't say much just yet. The reason fields contain values with zeros and ones in an unorganized manner, and visually. Tableau does not seem to properly accommodate this against the continuous probability values that we have. In addition, we expect to see 4 segments within the visualization, one for every reason. Instead, we see just 3, the first of which containing 2 values, 0 and 1. Long story short, let's tell Tableau that we'd like all these reason values to be treated as continuous variables as well. You already know how to do this. Select the relevant 4 data fields. Right-click on them and choose Continuous. Awesome! Observing 1 or 0 along the horizontal axis indicates whether an individual has or has not been absent for each particular reason. Also, we can see all reasons contain data for both values 0 and 1, except for reason 2. This means we can conclude that none of our 40 observations has been away from work because of reason 2. Let's go back to our data source to check if this is true. It certainly appears so. As we scroll down, none of the values in the relevant column is something other than 0. Okay, so we don't really need this field in our analysis anymore, do we? There's simply not enough information about it in our data set. Let's go back to our worksheet and drop it. To do this, we'll drag it away from the column section. Consequently, from the data we are left with, we could deduce the following. If a person is supposed to be absent due to a reason from group 1, as marked by the dots associated with the value of 1, the probability that she will be excessively absent is above 50%. Hence, such an individual is expected to be away from work for more than 3 hours. Whereas, when we look at reason 3, we must consider the very few observations of people who had specified this reason for excessive absence, as well as the fact that the probabilities have been distributed both in the lower and upper parts of the vertical line. That's why we could say that, similarly to reason 2, This class doesn't tell us much about what to expect from individuals being absent because of a reason from Group 3. Finally, reason 4 leads us to an opposite conclusion compared to reason 1. The people who have selected a reason for absence from this class exhibit a probability below 50% to be excessively absent. And now, if we want to extend our analysis by adding a qualitative interpretation of the results, what should we say for groups 1 and 4? Do our numerical inferences match any business logic, and can they have a more intuitive explanation? Let's see. What were the reasons included in Group 1? Without disrespecting all other reasons, the ones we have here represent very serious diseases. That's why the numbers tell us that the expected probability of an individual to be excessively absent because of a reason from this class is higher than 50%. Great! We can say that was a good match between qualitative and quantitative analysis. How about Group 4? It represents what we've called light reasons for absence, a dental appointment, physiotherapy, a medical consultation, and others. When you think of it, it is quite probable that none of these could be serious enough to require that a person is absent from their workplace for an entire day. That's why the numbers show that people who have to be absent for such a reason are not expected to be excessively absent. As you can see, the probability values are all below the mark of 50%. Here, we can end the solution of our second visualization task. You went through many of the fundamentals of working with Tableau. You were introduced to its interface, grasped the main idea behind treating it as a drag-and-drop software, and learned about dimensions and measures. Remember that you could consider the organization of the data fields as dimensions or measures, as well as their conversion to discrete or continuous variables, as data pre-processing on a micro level. Why? Because these are the operations that will prepare the data you have for the visualizations and analyses to come, after all. To conclude, a minute ago, I mentioned a probability value of 50%, while on the graph, we see numbers between 0 and 1. As an exercise, please convert the values on the vertical line into percentages between 0 and 100, just as we did in the previous lesson. After you've done that, you can proceed with the next visualization task. Thank you for watching.